welcome to the B Team Podcast. I am your host, Josh Safran, with my co-host,
Matt Mars,
and our permanent guest,
Rob Nelson.
We're here every week to talk to you about all things Bentonville, bourbon, and business. The B Team Podcast. Be here. Welcome to the B Team Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Safran, with our permanent guest,
Rob Nelson,
and our co-host,
Matt Mars.
And we're here every Thursday talking all things Bentonville, business, and bourbon. And thank you for the wonderful, delicious E.H. Taylor small batch.
That's today. A treat. I mean, he knows how to win us over right away.
Our guest,
I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I love the way it started.
It doesn't matter if Scott says anything on the podcast because he's brought in
just be quiet.
A small batch.
Yeah. I've done my part. Made you guys happy.
Well, we're definitely going to focus on the business aspect today because Scott leads Cameron Smith and Associates, which is the number one most respected recruiting group in Northwest Arkansas, and he's an all-around class act. So cheers. Thank you for coming in.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you for the bourbon. It's a hefty pour there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Let's go.
That is so good. Gosh,
that is good.
That's so good.
So we were wondering, how did you get from playing baseball at the university to doing what you're doing now?
I mean, you just jumped right in.
I was thinking the same thing. That's really good. I mean, I want to hear the story.
I love it.
Sure, yeah. I left college and I was a finance major, and I knew I wanted to be a stockbroker, and got a job at Morgan Stanley and spent 5 years there and at Raymond James doing investment
locally.
stuff. Yep, locally here in Rogers, actually, Horse Barn Road. So Morgan Stanley closed the Rogers office, moved to Fayetteville. Everybody went from there to Raymond James, went with them. Did that a couple years. Loved it. Still love it. Still love the stock market. Follow it closely. But I didn't know anyone with money. And that's kind of important. If you're a stockbroker and none of your friends have money, your family doesn't have any kind of significant money, you're going to, so.
Problem number one.
I'm 23 years old, 25 years old at that point. Probably I wouldn't have invested with myself, and I'm trying to talk people into investing. And so met Cameron Smith through, I started a bar called Eddie Haskell's Patio Grill Restaurant. Y'all may remember that with some guys. And so through that, got to know Cameron. And
may he rest in peace.
What a great guy. Gosh. I know we'll talk about him later too.
Yep.
But and so Cameron, the founder of our company, Cameron Smith and Associates, he was on the board for the World Trade Center, and I wanted to go work for the World Trade Center from investments, and thought it was a similar career path. And so I had this great plan to go talk to him, and him being on the board, maybe he could help me get a job because they were just opening, and they were the same building as Raymond James over here in the in Rogers and Pinnacle Hills. So I go and I sit down, and within 30 seconds, we've cut through the small talk. He's like, "Oh, so what are you here for? What do you want to do?" I told Cameron, I said, "Well, I'd like to work for the World Trade Center." And that was the only thing I came for. That was the only thing in my head. And he goes, "Well, I'd like to own the Chicago Bears." but it's not going to happen.
That's so Cameron.
So he just bursted that bubble right there. And he goes, "Well, so what else are you interested in doing?"
And you're like, you're like, why am I even here?
That's like I said, I don't know that's why I'm here, So he said, I'm not qualified, which I'm sure I wasn't. And so he goes, "Well, go back, think about it, come back to me, we'll meet." And I mean, he kind of took me under his wing. He's like, "Hey, I'll talk to you through some stuff and you decide what you want to do." And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe I am ready to make a career transition officially, not just this. So what else would I want to do? Looked into his business, went back to him and just had some back and forth, and then ended up becoming a recruiter at CSA and been there 16 or 17 years now. So it's kind of how I stumbled into that.
That's amazing. I mean, they are world-class. I've talked to you about this many, many, many times. There's multiple recruiting firms in town, but the personal discussions that you guys have, I've talked to you and you've talked to me of, "Hey, Josh, I have a job available. I just don't think it's for you," right? And you guys get commission on selling jobs. And I mean, that's kind of the model, right? If I get placed by somebody, the company pays you guys a percentage for hiring me. And you've talked me out of jobs before. You said, it's just not the right fit, which means so much to me and the credibility that it brings within in the community. I mean, that's fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's all that matters. I mean, these are people trying to make decisions for their families. And so we give them the most information we can and the advice we can. And yeah, I mean, in the end, it's our job to find the right people for these companies. But if it's not the right fit, then it's not the right fit. So we need to tell them, what are the pitfalls? What do you need to look for? What's important to you? These are the negatives and the positives. And in the end of the day, we want you to want the position. but it needs to be right, and I don't want it to be a
You don't want
short
a
term.
commission charge back.
Yeah, I'm going to be in this town for.
On you.
You don't
I'm
want to
gonna
give the
be-
check back.
We're going to be here 20 more years. I'm in this town 20 more years, and it's not worth it to me to put somebody in the wrong place, knowing it's not the right fit, and they come back and not work out. So
And it's expensive for a company. I mean,
It is.
turnover is extremely expensive.
And we do replacements for that reason.
Yeah.
We want to stand behind our searches, but it's really important, and we don't always know it's the right fit. And a lot of times people get into stuff and it's different than what they thought. We do our best. Companies
It's
do
got
the
to be
best, the
so
companies do
hard
the best.
doing
And
what you do.
it's not easy, but it's like every
Because I mean, everyone they spend, you spend a lot of your life doing that, and it's hard to read people and find the right job for
when everybody's practicing how to interview and knows what they're supposed to say, and now you can put questions on the internet and answer stuff, and it's not even how they would answer a lot of times. So trying to get to the heart of people and the companies and their skill sets is difficult.
Do you all use any of like that personality testing?
We do some personal assessments. We use a Hogan assessment. We use a tool called Prism assessment, and they're both a little bit
Prism's
different.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Josh has gone through the Prism stuff, and it's professional development. Show you where your strengths and weaknesses are, and how you can relate with other people with different.
I had a lot of weaknesses, and I took that. I was off the charts. Like, well, we probably should never place this guy again.
We don't use it for those purposes. It's all professional development purposes.
I mean, I used to be in the corporate world before what I do now, and we used to use all kinds. And it's crazy how it nails a person. Like, it's scary.
Yeah, it can. I mean, you answer the questions and it can decipher. I mean, it puts you in buckets, and I'm not sure that it's 100% accurate, but I'd say
When I read mine, I was like,
80%.
Yep, that sounds
Why
like
don't you share your personality assessment on the next
let's
podcast?
hear about this.
We'll give you one. How about that, Rob?
Yeah.
We'll let Josh break it down and say, okay, it looks like Rob's a little bit controlling. A lot of it controlling.
That would be interesting, though.
Doesn't work well with others, it says.
yeah, if I went back and found like one of my old ones and then like did a new one and compare them, see how I changed.
Yeah.
You changed?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think
Coming out of the
evolves.
corporate world as well too, you change a little bit and like you just chill out.
So corporate, what was your background? And I know
I was hotels, sales and marketing hotels for 20 plus years. So with some
down in
big
Florida,
groups.
right?
Florida, Hawaii, Colorado, all over the place. Yep. So yeah.
Now you build homes?
Now I built homes and I'm on a podcast, which I mean is great because I was tired of it. I could,
Tired of the podcast?
No, I was tired of the corporate world. That's good. Yeah. Which to each day.
That's why you didn't know Scott was, because everybody who's in the corporate world knows Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't want to know Scott on that kind of level because I'll try to get talked back into it.
Yeah, if I know your first priority, you got bigger problems. It means you're out of work, or I don't need to be anybody's first priority.
I'll drink bourbon with you anytime.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the other thing. I never even, until you just said that, I never thought of, like, you see people like at their lowest and at their highest. Like when they call you and they're like, hey, I need something. What do you have?
Fast.
And then you get to see them.
It's always good when a recruiter calls
them,
you and you don't call a recruiter.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, because
Because I mean, you can be on top of your game, and a company's looking to headhunt you, and they'll go through someone like yourself.
That's the toughest part of our team. Is there's a lot of people we can help. There's a lot of people we can't help. There's a lot of people
they can't help
we
themselves.
like to seek the highest talent. That's what our clients want us to do. We're like, hey, find this person, a needle in the haystack. Yeah, so you go out, you find that person. But there's also, but there's a lot of people come to us, and some are fantastic, and then others, it's like some are really good, and we still don't have the right roles, and then some other, are not. I'm thinking it's going to be a tough road, and having those conversations are the hardest thing.
I'm in that camp when he doesn't call me anymore because he's like, I got nothing for you.
Well, you're having what you're doing also. Yeah. Put you in plug and play, right?
Shout out to plug and play, and I'm doing well. But yes, you have to find the right people for the right job. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Because like you said, like people want, whether it be in your job or at like a home loan, it's easy to get a refi. But it's no one wants you when you're the new guy that has nothing.
Yep.
And like when you already have a job, everyone wants you. But when you don't, it's like
The empathy part
you're the
is
plague,
it's so hard calling people and telling them they didn't get it too. When you know they need it and they want it, that's
that must not
the
be a
most
fun
draining.
call.
That's a fairly emotional, draining thing.
but as the CEO, you're probably asking some of your underlings to make that phone call, right? I would hope so.
I've done plenty, and I still do plenty. We do everything. I still do everything, and I'm very involved with the searches and our team and the people. But yeah, I mean, I've had to elevate and do a lot more because we've got 26-person team. So
Wow.
there's a lot going on, and but business has been good, and we're thankful for that.
So give us a little insight. Like, I mean, Northwest Arkansas is booming, exploding. I mean, Walmart, all the different corporations. What are you seeing in your world for recruiting?
Okay, so just kind of frame it here. So we do recruiting for the supplier teams, really. Anybody's got a product on the shelf at a Walmart, Kroger, Target, and we work nationally. We do the sales, finance, marketing, and analytical positions. Wow. We don't do a lot with Walmart directly. Sure. So Walmart, they have so many recruiters and things. We've done and touched here or there, but we're really focused on the consumer goods companies. The suppliers here in this market, I mean, they're really holding strong. They're doing well. Maybe growing a little bit, but it's pretty, it's not, they're not just adding 10 new employees a year. But
or not a lot of turnover.
They're growing. Their businesses are growing. Walmart's the strongest retailer in the world and the strongest account. I'd argue they're stronger than Amazon. They're definitely stronger than Kroger, Publix, all the others, which we do recruiting for those accounts too. But this market's great. And what we've seen is it used to be all around Walmart, but now it's becoming a balanced economy where you've got the health systems of Mercy and the hospitals, and you've got the University of Arkansas that's growing. You've got NWAC up here that's growing. You've got a lot of different businesses that are becoming
anchors.
It's like diversifying your investment
than just one
portfolio.
anchor.
This community has diversified itself into small businesses, into other big businesses. You've got the J.B. Hunts and the Tysons and the things that are. There's a lot of stability. If somebody doesn't do well, there's still others to pick up the slack until they can pick it back up. So, the investment into this community is amazing. You don't have in any other towns I know of people that are putting this kind of money into it just to make the community better, to have better charities, to have better support for families and kids, and it's pretty incredible.
And you've been here a long time, right?
Been here since, went to school at the U of A, graduated high school in 97 from Batesville, Arkansas, but been up here. So from 97, I guess, graduated in 01, moved up to Rogers and Bentonville area for probably in 2003. So 21, 22 years.
That's solid.
Been up here.
And how do you know Matt? How do you know Matt?
Matt, man.
From Dave.
Dave and Jenny are really good friends of ours, and therefore Matt's a default. Matt, and then Matt's fireworks show. Matt, always joking.
The fireworks show at our house.
We got to bring 2 or 3 times that I got killed by some of his fireworks.
We got to bring back the fireworks show one year. The last few years it's been on pause.
Well, so CSA, Cameron Smith was a big sponsor of the Shadow Valley fireworks show. So we do that every year now out there, and Shadow Valley's picked that up and carried on that tradition. Yeah. Thanks to Shadow Valley, that's fantastic. But before that, I was going to Mars.
I guess we could go to Rob's house or to Josh's house.
Come on by. Come on by.
Yeah, so I've known Matt for a long time. I might even have your hand-me-down bicycle from Milo Ashoff.
You know
my mountain bike. Yeah.
Milo, I love it. He's funny.
What position did you play in baseball?
I was an outfielder.
Okay.
At the U of A. I came up. I was going to pitch and hit, and dislocated shoulder. I had some shoulder issues and stuff. So left field, right field, DH'd a lot once I started injuring my shoulder more and more.
Right. He's a world-class athlete. My introduction to Scott, and Emily said I have to bring up our 6 foot and under men's basketball league. She still gives me a lot of grief on that, but I started playing basketball with Scott, and he is a fantastic basketball player.
But you're taller than 6 foot, though.
Yeah, we stretched. We probably had some guys. Now, we did good. We won that league usually, but we did have I'm probably close to, I'm probably just shy of 6'2".
I was going to say,
Scott Kluban 6'3".
Scott was in there, too?
It's take your shoes off and slouch. If you could think,
it's so funny. When you play for the U of A, you can any sport he's probably good at.
Well, what was funny with this league
those guys are always good.
So they'd call me like, "Hey, we have a roster." I was like the last man on the bench on the 6 foot and under league.
You're the shortest because everyone else.
But everybody else on the team, like 6'1", Holquist is over 6 feet. Like we had guys that were well over 6 foot. I'm like, I think they brought me on only so I could actually be under 6 foot on this team.
Yeah. We played the open leagues too. Pretty much the same team. The open is a 6 foot.
So when he told me about this league, 6 foot and under, it actually came up the other day. I don't know how it came up. And I envisioned all these like 5'6", 5'7" guys.
Nope. They would take their shoes off. They would slouch down. Like, 5'11" and 3/4.
Oh yeah, dude. They measured you before the year, and so like if your tallest player wasn't there on the first game, they didn't measure that guy, and it's show up late, show up, come in. We weren't gaming the system, but it was other teams had that same thing.
Yeah, some other guy's 6'6". He showed up at the game. I was like, how is this guy getting in? But yeah, he's a great basketball player.
No, Josh is a really good player too. Josh was our point guard.
He's a natural athlete for sure.
Well, I was always good. He was always very good. There's a big difference between good and very good. I mean, I could do okay.
So is he all about the shoes like you?
No.
So
He's like
Scott
the guy.
He doesn't have like.
White men can't jump, like the guy that just show up and be like, I'm not picking this guy because he looks like he doesn't belong, and he's like wearing shoes with holes in the bottom kind of thing, and he walks on the court, you're like,
and then
he's fantastic, yeah.
Well, he's a financial guy. He's not going to show up in expensive shoes like you.
He was smart. He was smart. He was smart. Yeah, Emily said I have to talk about the 6 foot and under league, so shout out to Emily for ensuring that was an uncomfortable conversation for me.
And that league.
Yeah.
6 foot and under.
Still probably have several T-shirts from that stuff.
Yeah. I think I probably have several. You let me borrow. Here's a team jersey sitting in my closet somewhere.
The worst is like we won one. I think Dave was probably on the team. We won a softball tournament. We were in like the bronze league. We got like second place in the bronze league.
He
and
called
they
it
gave you
the
a
beer
shirt.
league.
It was like whatever, runner up bronze. Rogers runner up bronze league. It's like you got gold, silver, bronze.
Yeah, you're like we're below bronze.
I can't wear that T-shirt.
The runner-up in the bottom league.
Yeah,
you can't wear that. That's like a participation trophy.
yeah, you can't wear that.
No. And now you're
Can't
coaching.
believe they made that.
Now
Yeah,
you're
coaching
coaching.
girls basketball.
So how's that been different too? You're coaching your daughter,
Yeah.
so a little different than playing.
It's a lot different. It's a lot more stressful. Coaching your own kid. I mean,
That's what Dave said the same. He's
Trying
like,
to-
it's hard.
I'm trying to not care. It's hard not to care more than they do sometimes. She's loving it. And she's a stress-free kid. She's happy all the time and stuff. But my competitiveness, I'm like, go get that loose ball.
And she's how old?
She's just turned 11. So yeah, we got some basketball tournaments this weekend.
That's what Dave said when he coached. He's like, okay, now everyone can play all year, but when it gets to the tournament, we're playing to win. Is everyone on board with that?
I saw Dave out there get a technical.
He gets in trouble all the time. And it's like you said, I think, you and him, any parent, you get caught
personal.
up and you're like, come on, So Dave gets in trouble.
I watched him coach recently. The boys are super aggressive on the court. Like there's no fear, and you can see Dave's trying to figure out like what role he needs to play, and everybody in the crowd is looking. And Jenny's kind of there with her head down. Like it's an interesting thing. Like that would be good for an episode on the show. Watching Dave coach.
Yeah,
Oof, it was fun to watch in the stands.
We got to get Dave on here for sure.
Yeah, well, I've known Dave and Jeannie Mars since they were suppliers, Walmart suppliers when Rubbermaid. And Jenny was a Pepsi and Chobani, Dannon, Stony Creek Farm, something, and so
Dave was a supplier too.
Tupperware, right?
with Rubbermaid.
Rubbermaid.
They both were with Rubbermaid, and then Jenny did it for a while longer with Pepsi and Dannon and Stony Creek.
Stony Creek, I think was.
Did you place any of them?
I can't say whether we did. I definitely did place
You could
Dave because
say.
he got in the building. Now, and Dave built my house.
Carrie
actually, before
got
I had
him.
the TV show.
Yeah. Carrie got him with Rubbermaid because she worked for Rubbermaid, and Rubbermaid opened a Phoenix team, and that's where.
And they ended up transferring here or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Now we've placed Carrie Mars before.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Well,
There you go.
Wow, tell us about that. Let's go through that story.
I don't. She's fantastic. It's Matt's wife.
She's a lot better than I am.
She's a bulldog.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't mess with Carrie. She gets it done.
Now she's been through you guys, and she thinks the world of you guys.
It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
She's awesome. So good families.
Yeah. And that's what's so neat about what you guys do. Like, it's like you said, like you have to make sure when you're placing these people that it's right, like you were saying, because you're going to be here in another 20 years and still be friends with all these people. So it's hard.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it has to be their decision.
Yeah.
I mean, we provide the information. Yeah, we call them. We try to get people interested in it and hopefully give them everything that they can to make their minds. But in the end, like you can't twist people's arm into positions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my philosophy. I think everybody has a different approach, but they have to decide, and it needs to be theirs. They'll second guess. It's just
Yeah.
the way the mind works, people need to make the decisions themselves.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't want any names, but there's got to be a funny story. Like there's got to be something that, whether it was a supplier or somebody came in for an interview or something happened that you go, I cannot believe this occurred, and I know you got something good for us.
Oh gosh,
He's not going to be able to tell
we've
that.
always talked about how you can write books about these types of stories. We've had candidates come in before, and you walk out with a candidate and they say that I think it went well, and then you have no idea what the hiring managers think. And we had one time there was somebody who said she smelled like wet horses. And we're like,
Wet horse.
You're like, what?
it's like, it's like,
How do you give that
pretty
feedback?
good, but yeah, his coat was dirty and smelled like wet horse. I was like, I don't know what to say. It's like, all right, I
Sorry.
guess. It's like, how are their Excel skills?
Yeah, you're like, can they work from home?
There's not a fragrance. There's not a cologne named Wet Horses, so that could not have been a good fragrance.
No, and you never know. I mean, you could go in. People can go in and do perfect, and the company's just looking for different things. Companies have things. People have different things. You hear all types of feedback.
Yeah.
So when you get that feedback, you're clearly giving a more softened blow to the person around.
You
Why
try
don't get the
to.
job?
Sometimes there's no different way to say it. It's like you smell. It's not wet horses. You smell like a horse. Okay, it's like you kind of like tone it down a little, right? And like you sounded.
You sound like a horse.
Said you didn't shower. I don't know. You say it differently. You don't say it. You don't made it.
Were you really nervous because you were giving out a scent?
A wet horse smell.
Yeah, I don't. So it's
Must be that organic.
Well, and I'm sure it was hard, like going through COVID, which none of us like to talk about, but like it's probably hard for you guys because like trying to find people that like maybe after COVID that only want to work from home.
You changed the
and you're
culture.
like, I'm not a miracle worker.
So let's
here.
talk
Like,
about that for a
like, what
second.
is-
So where are we at now today?
If you ask me, like we're beyond
as
it. I
far
don't
as
even like bringing it up.
No, but
like
I'm
stuff
saying like
that-
the work from home versus back to the office. Like what are you seeing out there in the workplace?
most companies are calling it hybrid, and they're going in the office 3 days a week and
Yeah.
home 2 days. It's Mondays and Fridays from home, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
4-day weekends.
And I say
Yeah.
most. I mean,
And I'm sure it's
some
hard.
companies have gone totally remote, and they have it. But if you say what's the standard, it's mostly hybrid. There's very few that are in 5 days a week. Some are in 4 days. I think companies are wanting to push back more 4 or 5 days. I think Walmart's wanting to go back 5 days in a lot of areas and leaving that to their managers. But I think
But it's a new piece for you on the recruiting scene because you may have a candidate now that says, I only want to work remote.
Yeah.
And you have a company that says, I got them in the office 5 days. So you're adding a whole new element
Yeah.
to a fit now, correct?
true. Yeah, and
You want a job?
Because you're like, I have the unicorn here, but they want to work from home. What do you guys want?
companies are more
know?
accepting of it than they were before COVID. So the styles have changed. It's just it's swinging back a little bit more to be in the office a little bit more. They're saying if you want to be promoted and you're managing people, you need to be with these people so you can train these people. You want to make that. So that's kind of how they're leveraging people to get back. It's like, look, you want to stay there, stay in that same job, and just do it. Okay, great. But you want to move up the ladder, get promoted. We need you involved. It's so it's going back that direction a little bit more. It'll never always go back. Neither way is perfect. Right. And
Yeah.
so,
Everywhere
but
has its
companies are a
pros.
lot more open now to people working remote. But it's not as much as it was 2-3
I'm sure
years
you're
ago.
sick of talking about it.
I don't mind it. I just think
It's interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because
where
you
are we at
wonder,
today
like-
from 3 years or 4
Yeah,
years?
you just always wonder, like, if a lot of people are like, nope, this is all I'm going to do, and it adds
There's
another
some of that.
layer of
there's some
difficulty for you guys finding some job.
If I was a hiring manager, that'd be a red flag.
Yeah, it
They're
would be for
ducking
me
on
too.
just on that.
I bet.
Well, I was just at a supplier in the Northeast. I won't name them. And we were at their headquarters, and we asked the same question. They go, oh, the office is closed Friday. Like, it's locked. You're not allowed in the building. Like, you can't work there even if you wanted to. And I was with another supplier, and like, it's 5 days. Like, you need to be in the office 5 days. And so then you're thinking about the 20 to 30-year-olds, and they're like, I don't want to go to the office, or I do want to go to the office. And that's got to add a whole other level of complexity in the stuff that you guys are working on.
The new people, the younger people need to be in the office to learn.
Yeah.
There's no way you
But
can
they don't
do
want
it.
to be in.
And then you talk the Northeast. The Northeast is one that was the biggest change. A lot of those people are on subways and trains and commuting from gosh, 60 to 90 minutes one way, you know, some 3 hours
Been there, done
and
that.
so, and having to get dressed up and going in the office, they're the ones who probably have benefited and learned the most through working from home. I mean, they've gotten a lot of time back and efficiencies back. So I think they've learned some positive lessons.
Oh, you have an hour and a half one way. That's 3 hour commute, and a lot of people do that.
Cost too.
When I worked in New York City, I mean, there were people commuting in from Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and they're on the train 3 hours a day.
They didn't have a choice, but
They
then
had no
COVID
choice.
hit, and then then their habits changed, and so they've not gone back as quick, and it's probably for the better. Around here,
Yeah.
you're 15 or 20 minutes from everything.
Yeah.
And we complain about that. We're like, oh, I'm not going to
I don't
leave
drive
around
anywhere at
7:45.
5 o'clock or 12 o'clock.
Like this morning, I looked out my back window and we're on 72 there, and I was like, "Well, the line's starting to pick up. School's about to start." You know,
Getting old,
and
too.
it's
You
like
notice it
it's
till
like
you get
10
old, you start
minutes,
noticing
you know?
the traffic. Man, I remember.
Yeah, sit here and drink my coffee for
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm like, I'm going to wait 20
Well,
minutes.
we don't want to drive to Fayetteville because it's
Yeah.
too far. And you chuckle and you're like, you live in the Northeast, you're like 20 miles, right? Like but here it's a big deal now.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah. That different world, that's for sure.
Can we talk a couple minutes about Cameron?
Sure.
I mean, I want to. Did you know Cameron at all? Did you? Know
No,
Cameron
I've
at all?
met him a few times, but I wouldn't say I knew him.
So you knew him, obviously, fantastic,
Yeah.
and I got to know him. You know, my dad passed away in 2001, and when I came down here, he and I got to spend some time together. And I wouldn't call him a father figure; that's probably a stretch. But when I had career advice, or when I was talking about opening the gents' place and how that would impact my supplier piece, I mean, he was just always there for me. And I know he had to shape your career quite a bit. I mean, big loss for the community, but I know that you had a lot of time with him over the years.
Yeah, Cameron was one of my best friends and obviously a mentor, and I learned a ton from him and lessons in business and just in people and his community involvement. And for those who didn't know Cameron, he had a big personality, and I think I like the psychology of why people are certain ways. And his family, if you know his sister, if you know his brother, his sister Kathy, his brother Tommy, and their family, they're charismatic. They come from Los Angeles. They kind of had a little bit of the acting influence and a little bit of the flair of California and things. He was raised by a single mother who worked several jobs, didn't have a lot, and came in and brought his recruiting company over to Fort Smith originally, then started it there and then moved up to Bentonville and had an office on the square. And him and Monica started a company in the early 90s. I think they moved in 1994 onto the square and built it from there. And he had a lot of success, and he had a lot of kind of swagger, and he dressed nicely. He had a big personality. He loved to help people. Just in a
Huge sense of humor.
Oh, always. He had great stories. He'd always pull jokes and pranks on people and prank call people, and he had endless stories and stuff. But just a big personality, big loss for Northwest Arkansas. But yeah, he was a great friend. But I always look back and think, okay, what made him so much the way he was? And it's just the way you're raised. The environment you're brought up in and stuff. And just thinking him coming from where he, low means and things to having success is just it shaped who he was in such a fun way. But I mean, he had style and he liked to have nice clothes and do that type of thing. And I think it was just I loved how you'd see him out, and I mean, his personality shone through and everything. Whether he was just sitting there, or whether he was talking to anybody, whether he knew him or not, and it's very few people are like that.
Yeah.
Really,
My Cameron story, and I know I've shared this with you. I mean, but if you didn't know him well, he had a huge sense of humor. He was really funny. He was always practical joking people. And so we were all working through putting our businesses, Gents Place, over at the airport. We were talking about advertising over there, and CSA has a huge presence at the airport, very well known. And Donnie Hubbard had a space over there. And coming out of COVID, we all wanted to renegotiate our package. And so Cameron says, yeah, send an email and we'll forward it on, the whole 9 yards. And so we send an email over to the airport, and then Cameron responds, and he's like, don't you know who you're talking to? It's the Godfather. You better get my rate down, or I'm going to come over there and kick your ass. And I'm like, I call him, did you just send that email? And he's down there because I just sent it to you. I didn't send it to anybody else. And I'm like, holy shit.
Like, he put a second fake email address on, right?
Oh, I was
like, it looked like he had sent it.
Yes.
He had sent it, and Josh is sweating.
That's awesome.
But that's who he was. And, you know, and now on top of all the community work, which I know he does a ton, and I know that you're involved now, a lot of the community efforts that he was doing because CSA was such a big part of the community.
Yeah, Monica Smith. I mean, his wife has carried on his legacy and trying to participate in all things that we've always done, and continue trying to grow our company and the brand and do what Cameron would like from it. So it's been great. We've got, I think, over 10 or 12 people have been there over 10 years, and everybody just picked up the slack and pulled harder. And so we've got a lot of experienced people, and they're all involved in the community and trying to do our part like he was. So we've had to step up a lot because it's big shoes to fill.
Now, have you changed the business model a bit since he has passed? I mean, have you done things differently? Has it been a little bit more of the same? Have you guys had probably a little bit more tech approach? Like how? What are you thinking moving forward now?
I mean, we're always evolving. I mean, we were evolving, you know, when Cameron passed, and we're continuing on those paths. And we're doing a little bit more retained search. We're doing a little bit more, testing. We're doing a little bit. We're getting into some different areas that allow us to elevate to larger types of positions and C-suites. And we've always been expanding in other markets. We've got some really talented people in other markets: Chicago, Cleveland, Little Rock. We recruit nationally, but we've got some people, and we're looking to grow in those areas. So we're continuing to grow and continuing to evolve as technology evolves. I think Cameron and I we always saw things very similar from a business perspective of how you need to grow and what you need to do, and quality being the top priority. You know, don't do anything faster if we sacrifice quality in return. So I think continue in a lot of ways, and just with new information, you do things differently. And so I'd say my skill sets are probably different than what his skill sets were. So just naturally, we may be doing things at times differently, but really nothing. We're staying in our lane and trying to do what we do best.
Fantastic. If Rob sent a resume in, how fast could you help somebody like Rob who doesn't have a lot of experience?
You know, we had to ask Rob more questions.
Time out. Number one, you haven't looked at my resume.
On the supplier side, I said, if you had
I'll be
called on Walmart before?
I've never called on Walmart, but I do have an extensive sales and marketing leadership background.
So it wasn't a negative. If Rob, in his glorious state, came with a resume with no Walmart experience.
Yeah. So here's what Cameron used to say. So he had so Walmart, you know, the supplier teams have a team leader that's over the team a lot of times, and essentially like a coach. And Cameron used to use an analogy, and he acted like it was a real story. I don't think it was, but he had a football coach that's managing a Division I team. That came to him and said, "Hey, you know, I'm out of work, and I'd like to lead a team again, and I'm looking to be a Walmart supplier." And Cameron's like, well, that's just perfect, because I've got a Walmart supplier that's leading a team that's looking to become a football coach. And tried to show, like, hey, this person couldn't go lead a football team, and you couldn't come lead a Walmart supplier just because you're managing people. So that's what I'd tell Rob.
Yeah. You're not getting a job.
Right.
No, I would convince you, Rob. I would convince you to move back to Hawaii and manage a hotel down there, and have us come down and stay with you.
Hey, that just made Josh's whole week right there.
Which part?
Saying that Rob wouldn't get hired. Did you see how excited he was when you said that?
I thought it was when Scott said
he was like, oh, so what he's saying is you're not getting a job.
But also I thought Rob was going to move.
I don't know the Chicago Bears either. If you remember how we started, right?
I thought Rob was going to move back to Hawaii. I thought that was a recommendation, which got me sad.
I don't even know what's happening. I bet you if he looked at my resume, he could find me a job.
Oh,
yeah. No, we would definitely.
Yeah, maybe it might not be leading the Bears. No. Like you're all talking. Sometimes you got to take a step back, prove yourself.
They need cashiers.
I don't know that it would take that much to lead the Bears.
They need cashiers at Walmart. They can find Rob a job.
The Bears just got the number one pick, right?
Yeah, they do.
I would be a great cashier.
Yeah. They must have a fancy draft.
You got to light pour for me.
Whoa.
This is my first podcast. You guys are on like podcast 12 for the day, right?
So you're doing a fantasy draft with Dave?
Yeah. We have
every
about
year.
15 or 20 years.
Are you in that league too?
No, I don't go to it.
You didn't make the cut?
I don't like doing that because I lose money every time I do that.
How's Dave's fantasy strategy? Is he typically good?
He's among the worst.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I would never give him credit, even if he was the best. I wouldn't even.
No.
We've been doing it 15 or 20 years, and we all if it's been 20 years, each of us has won once every 20 years. Like we're all equal.
What's the
We
buy-in?
do an auction. I don't know. It's $150 or $200. We do an auction draft where you get a salary cap and you bid, and it takes us like 4 or 5 hours. And we'll rent a place or we'll stay somewhere and we'll spend the night and bring a lot of food and eat and have a good time. So it's a 24-hour event, but we'll get out and half of our league doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time we get 2 hours into the draft, I'm not sure they know where we're at.
That's the best kind of draft.
We got a guy. He'll nominate somebody that got drafted. He'll nominate them 3 times. They've been drafted an hour ago.
That would be me.
Hey,
That would be me.
I'm waiting for somebody like O.J. Simpson, running back.
yeah, really.
As far as I like the football squares because it's simple. I do the football.
Oh, he does the
squares.
box pools. He's a
They
big.
tell you if you win or not. You do nothing.
Yeah,
you
it's
draw
super
numbers
simple.
Yeah.
So
It's all luck.
So every Sunday we'll have to get you in this thread I got in last year. It cost me a shit ton of money. But Rob puts out, he does a Super Bowl box pool every single weekend for football games.
For random games.
And somehow Rob wins every time.
Oh, you're so
Somehow
he does.
he wins.
No.
He's conned me into doing it how many times, and I
Matt,
never
you got to
won.
buy more than one
It's
square.
a business. It's a business.
I
You thought it was a game.
My wife helps me with it.
Oh.
I guarantee you, it's 100% legit.
Somehow you're winning.
We don't even take a vig.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I would take 10% of
No,
that.
that's illegal. Then it's illegal if you do that.
But Matt would still do it anyway.
Well,
Yeah, I would still do it.
That's between them. You get started.
So his buddy gets the X every time.
And he barely
Grego
wins.
does.
So it's a percentage, right?
Yeah.
So if you play squares, there's 100 squares, and if you buy 20, you got a 20% chance of winning. If you buy one, you got a 1%
Time out.
chance.
I didn't know that Grego gets his own. He gets to pick.
He gets the X.
I just consider these random. I'm not cool enough to get to pick my own number. My
You
own
can.
box.
You can. You have to call before
But then
Grego.
you got to commit because we pre-print the squares because it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a big group of guys on this deal, and like sometimes we end up with 3 or 4 sheets, and we're 15 minutes before kickoff, and I'm sitting there like it's work.
It is.
It's for Angie, not for Rob.
Welcome to my world. We're
Yes,
getting
you
gifts
got
for the
it.
And that's
podcast.
these young who's never send their Venmo, so I have to
How many people can you accept?
100. It's
100
squares.
100 squares on. So that's only on every game. They'll have like
so what are
3
the games?
games.
So
Like
pick
on
the
a Sunday,
Cowboys
we'll randomly
You
just
pick
pick a game, and
Okay.
we'll say, "Hey, like we're not doing anything this Sunday, and let's play the Monday night game or whatever the case may be."
$20 a box, right?
It depends. $5, $10.
Never
But
$5.
but sometimes it fills up within like 4 seconds.
So
and
then you
we're
roll
off to a second
another,
sheet,
and then you have a third,
and then
you
a
have
third
fourth.
sheet, and a fourth sheet for the same game. I mean,
I'm out. Yeah, I can picture myself on Monday night watching 2 teams I could care less about.
That's how it is.
Well,
That's
that's
what
what the end of the game score is. I don't want it.
oh yeah, yeah.
Do it on a Razorback game, maybe I'm in because I'm
Yeah.
watching it anyway.
Well, the crazy
Maybe
thing
stuck
is
to
you'll look
watching,
down
like,
on
North
your-
Dakota State versus Providence.
No, we only do
So he
NFL.
only does NFL.
We only do NFL. And you'll look down at your phone and there's 300 text messages.
And then at the end of the night, Rob's like, "Everyone, send me your money because I'm having to float everyone's money right now."
Well, you're just paying him. He wins.
Oh, I
No,
know.
you're so full of it. I actually, if you look at my total last year, I actually lost.
Not possible.
Yeah, I
100%.
would say you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So y'all know how I got this bottle of whiskey
No.
or bourbon? Excuse me.
It's quite tasty, by the way.
It is very good.
That's-
But
yeah.
we were at the Gents Place
Shout
charity
out.
event, whiskey tasting, where
Which
you
is
bid
coming
on,
up.
bid on
Yeah.
stuff. And that was the only bottle that Rob didn't bid on, I think. And so
That sounds about right.
And I was like, I won't get it. I just set my mind on one bottle. My kid's name is in the bottle of that whiskey. And so I was like, okay, that's the one I want. And it turns out I love it. So
Thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah.
Matt and I had a few cocktails prior to the event.
So that was the night that
was 2 years ago.
that was 2 years ago when Well,
I've been both years, so I'm not
okay.
sure.
So I only
But 2 years ago, he was the one bidding everybody out.
last year we weren't there. Rob and I weren't there. We didn't
Still
get
a sore
invited.
subject. Oh,
No.
But-
Everybody else got to win something.
I will say that this year will be the biggest one yet.
November
yeah,
14th.
This year is going to be
November
good.
14th.
So we won Donnie Hubbard's cabin on the
How was it?
White River? Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
yeah,
On Tailwaters?
Yep.
Yep.
Our fantasy football draft.
Oh, you
was
guys
there.
did
So
up
we took
there.
15 guys out
Oh,
there on
that's
the
cool.
river.
And
We-
Donnie loves it
Yeah.
more than you do.
No,
is what's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. Donnie even came out.
Yeah,
Like,
Donnie's like,
this is
he
great.
gets
Look,
more
he
excited
came
than
out.
you
He was
do.
out there. He's like, I'll be out there at 6 a.m. to fish with you. Like, all right, yeah, cool. So we got out there. We took 15
Yeah.
guys out there, did our fantasy football draft on the White River, and fished that day, and then went in and drafted, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic.
That's fun.
I need to go.
That was one of your draft items or auction items in your charity event. That's great.
This year we got some really good auction items, and last year Rob and Matt no-showed. So my plan this year, we had Rob get involved with the charity selection, and we picked a charity that Rob's very passionate about. So now Rob is guaranteed to
I'm
be there.
all in.
All in.
Yeah.
Matt 50-50.
Yeah.
Now
I'm
I'll
all
be
in
there,
this
but
year.
I like.
I'm already
already
selling
on-
tickets.
for his uncle.
I'm
That's a
pre-selling
big deal.
tickets.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
We did a good job on that.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Scott, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys.
Continued success with
Thank y'all.
CSA.
Cheers.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the good pour.
Thank you all,
Yes.
guys. Enjoyed it.
Yes.
Appreciate your friendship. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, guys.